Hello, and welcome back to another long rest. I'm Brandon,
And I'm Logan.
and today we're all about how to build encounters and hopefully balance them.
Mm. It is a very tricky task, I can tell you that. As someone that has borderline TPK'd, but also spent the first about 10 episodes of a one on one campaign putting somebody unconscious every single fight.
Yeah, into your own right, one-on-one is a little harder.
Wildly
there's a learning
different.
curve.
Yeah, I would say I don't think CR is even close to being balanced for one on one. But hey, whatever. It's a learning experience, and that's truthfully the biggest thing.
Yes.
You have to learn how to balance them, and that's what we're going to be doing here today.
Okay, so if you're gonna start an encounter, there's some pretty important things we think that maybe you should be able to check off if
Yeah.
you're going to do that. So, importantly, you should be able to answer one of the following questions: Is it advancing the story? That's important.
Is it developing character?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, does the player character or an NPC become richer from that encounter?
Yes.
Like, does their character themselves become unveiled or change?
Is it simply draining resources?
Yeah.
It's important.
D&D is resource management
Yes.
at the end of the day. So, absolutely.
Or is it setting the stage for the dangers that are in the world? You know, setting what you might not know maybe in this continent or this country or the world itself, helping those players understand that in this direction there is very much a high stake and danger.
Yeah.
Are you going to keep traveling or not?
True. No kidding. And then, just think about this. Encounters are not just combat.
Yes.
So all of those points, about revealing character, about advancing the story, that doesn't have to be just a fight. It could be a social encounter.
Yes.
What would a social encounter look like?
Saying you got called to the king's presence, and the king is saying, I would like to know why you did that. Why did you break into that store? There was no fire reported, like you said. Explain yourself. And the party's got to explain their way out of this situation, either in a perceptive way or deception way.
Mm-hmm.
And spells could be used. Maybe it's just skills that they have. There are different ways that the party can go about that.
Yeah. Social encounters could also be tavern keepers.
Yeah.
Merchants or town guards getting in somewhere, not being let in somewhere, and having to try to figure out your way in somewhere.
Very true.
So obviously different characters are specified to do certain things. A barbarian might not be the best social encounter character. Build for that,
Yeah.
Challenge that player or know the party's strengths and weaknesses. That way you can help build for these encounters.
Yeah, very true. And outside of social, you've got exploration.
Yes. So exploration is really where rangers come into play, right?
That's their excel.
It's the bread and butter for the ranger, but the exploration encounter is navigating the world.
Yeah.
Getting from point A to point B and what you come across along that way, but also, very importantly, is avoiding things. Maybe you come across something that you know for a fact you're not going to be able to encounter, that you're not even going to be able to overcome. Like you're on your way to the next town and you find a dragon's den. Should you go plunder it? It's got a lot of loot in there, but you're a level 3 party. You really think you're going to take it? No, just mark that pin on the map and come back to it when you're level 10, level 15, whatever it be. Exploration is huge on just burning resources, but also developing that world around you.
Yeah, it develops the characters, it develops the stage of the world, can drain resources. It checks a lot of those boxes pretty quickly.
It sure does.
A very simple one that is complicated at the same time, puzzles. Puzzles are tough, and that you make a very good point about puzzles. That if
I have a deep struggle with puzzles and implementing them in my game because it's a barrier sometimes just for the player, not the character, but the player.
Yeah.
Either they can't wrap their brain around that puzzle, or simply they weren't paying attention when the key answer to that puzzle was put in last session, 10 sessions ago, 4 months ago, whatever it is. Sometimes you as a DM see, oh man, the answer's so obvious because you've got the answer. The players don't. So you're holding all the cards and they're guessing at that
Correct.
point.
Yeah.
It can become a very huge, very frustrating barrier for the players that might not be fun. So you really have to know how to build a meaningful puzzle. And truthfully, I think that's going to be a video on its own.
Very well could be. That is
Yeah.
a large topic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Outside of puzzles, a very interesting one is environmental hazards.
Yeah.
That could range from all sorts of things.
Yeah, environmental hazards could be the physical environment, like can you breathe that air? The difficult terrain. Is it icy? Are you underwater? That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Are you? I don't know. Like what else environmental hazards could you think of at the time?
A very quick one would be: is there a localized volcano that's erupting or about to erupt? Like, how does that change the aspect of how it's going to happen?
Yeah.
The party had to go somewhere, and the volcano erupts, and now they've got to escape.
True. Escape and avoid the combat at the same time.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just anything that you could think of, even in this extent of like in a massive forest with a bunch of trees that have been knocked down, and they've got to navigate their way through a certain way. So are you able to use resources in order to get through this? Because this large force that you have to travel with, because there's something right here, is causing you to either go up and over, underneath, in between, taking your time, like you said, difficult terrain. Like, there's a lot of fun things you can do with that.
Environmental hazards could also include breaking line of sight.
Yeah.
A simple tree trunk or a pillar or a rock where the enemy can hide behind and maneuver prevents the characters from attacking them at all times. So that one enemy can fight down 5 or 6 characters at one time because they have that advantage. They
Very
have
true.
the high ground, Anakin.
Very true. And outside of that is a really fun one, which is chases.
Yeah. Oh, chases
I've
are.
had some really fun chases before.
Love me a good chase, but it's an art to put the chase together, because there's multiple factors that you have to think about. One, the party does not probably have all the same movement speed. If you're a rogue or a monk or one of those player characters species that have 35 feet of movement or even 40 feet of movement speed out the gate, you're at a huge advantage over a dwarf.
A dwarf.
A
dwarf.
Yeah, truly a dwarf. I
guess
do
I
think
know.
2024 dwarves don't have 25 feet of movement. I'm pretty sure they have 30 feet now.
Everything's 30?
I think so.
Actually, now that you said it, I think you're right as well.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check.
There are some characters that still have 35. But regardless, class abilities, feats, or species could all change your movement speed. And plus, some characters or some species have abilities to overcome difficult terrain.
Yeah, very true. Rangers,
Or you can fly,
Yes.
So there are a bunch of different ways to where your movement speed could differ from your party members. And if you outpace them, that's not beneficial to them. They're left behind and you're high and dry. And how's that conversation going to go when you're sitting back at the tavern and you're missing Fred?
Yeah.
And then you also got to contend with enemy movement speed. Are they gaining ground on you? How are you going to prevent that? How are you going to put barriers in their way? Or are you fighting them while you're doing it? Because that sacrifices your action to dash. Now you're using your action to attack. So maybe the fighter has to sacrifice one of their action surges to attack and dash. There are multiple ways to make chases very fun. And one of the big fun points is environmental hazards.
Yeah, very true. That's definitely a place to use them.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next point is CR, and I should preface this is something very near and dear to my heart. CR is a guideline, not a rule. Anybody that's played so far, you've been able to experience this. The challenge rating system, you use it as a guideline. If the party is optimized and when a lot of people end up min-maxing and they're doing buku damage, that CR that you thought was going to be deadly combat, I'm sure we've all experienced it, that enemy died in a round.
Mm-hmm.
So using it as a guideline and finding ways to get comfortable with how the party's moving and the strengths and weaknesses of that party, as Logan had alluded to earlier, help guide your CR choices and how you can do that. And there are other ways around that as well.
Yeah, but even know this, tactics as a DM change CR. If you just take a dragon and you can find their movement and you throw them at a party, that dragon's going down.
Correct.
The biggest aspect of a dragon is its ability to fly, to get away, to mitigate that barbarian just pinning them down and doing 5 attacks on them in one go. It is the easiest way to... What?
Sorry, you said 5 attacks in a row, and I was like, barbarians with 5 attacks.
I don't know, man. It's a cool barbarian.
Yeah,
whatever it be,
Sorry,
you know. It's a barbarian fighter multi-class.
You're right. That's my bad.
Yeah, obviously. But regardless, it is the easiest way to take a very high CR and dumb it down. But at the same time, if you got your tactics right, you can take something trivial and make it insanely difficult if those enemies are fighting intelligently. But that really comes down into knowing that monster. There are tools out there that help you understand monsters' abilities, breaks down their ability points themselves to tell you this is how they fight and this is how they should be fighting to be best effective.
Very true. Yeah. And this is where you're able to use, as a dungeon master, you're able to use those environmental hazards. You can use those to your advantage when you get those opportunities for your bad guy in those combats.
Yeah.
But yeah, CR does not equal difficulty. Just remember that, use it as a guideline. It's probably not going to end up how you think it does. So.
Obviously, there are some hard, fast rules. A CR 25 versus 5 level 1s. Yeah, like we all know how that's going to go.
You're right.
But there are some points where you can do a CR calculator and say, man, according to this was supposed to be a deadly encounter, and the players smoked through it without even burning a bit of their resources.
Right. And now that we're into the combat side of this discussion, a really important thing when it comes to that is action economy. And it goes on both sides.
Yeah. Players utilizing their action, their bonus action, and their movement. If you don't, you're cutting yourself and your party short. Obviously, there's situational dependence. Maybe it is within your character to not move because they stand their ground. Maybe that's their character flaw.
Sure.
Maybe their character flaw is they don't attack. They don't hurt a certain animal, and so they just won't flat out attack it. Maybe they're pacifist. I don't know what you're doing playing that in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but hey, we've all done it. Regardless, the action economy of the players drastically affects the role and the player's effectiveness to use that action economy correctly. A well-placed reaction of a counterspell or a shield is going to change that entire combat encounter in heartbeats, in a reaction.
Yeah, and it's from when you're building your combat encounters, use minions. I mean, that your bad guy can have minions next to him, and when they're facing in that layer, make sure you're using your layer actions. Make sure you're using your legendary actions. Those all mean something, and ultimately, over CR, I've always learned that action economy equals action economy equals a much better fight. So, if in one round your party, for arbitrary numbers, say has 10 actions, you need to be pretty darn close to that 10 actions in order for that fight to feel fair in that round.
Yeah.
And if you're not, and you're only doing 3, you will know the difference when it comes around, when your guys face down after 2 rounds and your party's still looking peachy keen.
Yeah, absolutely. It is one of the easiest things to forget in the heat of the battle.
Yeah.
Is legendary actions. You didn't mention it. Legendary resistances.
Yes.
goodness. That is the easy way for your big bad to just go, no.
Correct. And it's very important.
Yeah. But on the flip side of that, that is players burning the resource of the dungeon master. Also critically important because that's one less legendary resistance that the big bad has. That way the players can slowly chunk away. Maybe they could tease out those legendary resistances. You know, they give a couple smaller level spells to get rid of the legendary resistances. That way they know that 9th level spell is not going to get resisted.
True.
Nothing feels worse than spending that big action and be like, oh, this is going to be a game changer. I'm going to banish this creature 100%. The fight's over. And then they go, yep, nope, legendary resistance. I get it, I failed, but I don't care. And then you go, oh, whoops, that was my only spell slot. Like, what do I go from here? Firebolt.
True. Yeah.
You know?
So, yeah, it's getting those actions, and there's plus and minuses to the equations on both regards, from reactions to legendary resistances to the minions. Like, there's always going to be that. So finding a way to fill that balance, and as the game goes on, you'll get more used to it and find that. But they're important.
Yeah.
The other thing when it comes to combat encounters is terrain.
Absolutely. So whenever you are designing the terrain, whether that be a physical map of the terrain or even just theater of the mind, you have to think about the movement of the creature or whatever the enemy versus the players themselves. That's going to limit who has access to who. Maybe none of the players have range, and that's what the enemy specializes in. That enemy's going to have a huge leg up if they can keep those players at range.
True.
But as soon as those players get up close, fight's over in one round.
Yeah, which, you know, that's where you're able to use that terrain to your advantage. So, like, if you have, bring in the elevation, you know, give that ranged opponent elevation over the party.
I have the high ground, Anakin.
That's very important, because now all of a sudden, if that guy's 50 feet in the air shooting the heavy bow down, boy, you know, longbow down, that's pretty good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Now the party has to find a way. What are they going to do? Burn resources to get up, fly, run. I mean, there's a bunch of fun stuff there.
Yeah.
But, you know, you've got cover options. You would have hazards from environmental hazards or anything, even man-made hazards. Is it light outside? Is it dark outside? Can you even see what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, almost everybody has dark vision anymore.
Yeah.
But for those that don't have it,
or
that makes it
for
fun.
those that choose to say their characters don't have it, even though the race or species does.
Yeah, I pretty much do that on all my characters now.
It's admirable because it just puts a barrier to create, or not a barrier to you, it's a barrier to your character, but for you, it's creative.
Yeah, and it's such a massive part of the game.
Yeah, it is. No, it truly
there's
is.
Day and night to the world, and if your guy can just see, even if it's in shades of gray, but if you can just see out 60 feet all the time, what? The darkness doesn't mean much anymore.
Yeah.
And it means light doesn't do anything, you know, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So yeah, finding those ways to like set those scenes, you know, being able to move those scenes around to where the elevation here, this massive tree is falling down mid game, like the environmental hazard of, you know, we talked about trees falling earlier, but in mid combat, this large tree fell over, so now there's line of sight problems. There's elevation problems naturally with that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the tree now on fire? It's burning, so now there's a hazard from the catching on fire. Like,
yeah.
Just making things dynamic.
I was eventually going to get there. I was hoping you would hit it, but you did right there. That's the word. Dynamic environment.
Yeah.
To where it's changing throughout the combat makes it so much more fun.
Yeah.
I remember you had a big bad boss fight in the last campaign where water levels were continually rising, and we had to contend with that. And I think at one point there was like a whirlpool that was caused because of the water levels rising, and even another point where it like swept player characters away, and even maybe towards the big bad so he could get closer to him. It just made this trivial threat where we're like, oh, whatever, it's just water. And then all of a sudden we're terrified of the water like we're cats, you know?
Yeah.
It was a very fun encounter because it was challenging.
Yeah, and it's, now you're not just encountering the bad guy.
Yeah.
You're encountering the entire map around you.
Mm-hmm. And the bad guy's domain, the trap that they just lured you into.
True. Yeah. You know, that's what makes it, and your players will have more fun.
Yeah.
I think in those moments too. Combat is really easy to get stagnant. and it happens.
Yeah, bonk, 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 bonk.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah.
But this is your opportunity to go, yeah, water levels are rising. This is happening. This is on fire. This massive crack just came through. Like there's a 100-foot drop here. Now it's separating you guys. You certainly don't want to fall down there.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's fun. It's easy. And that stuff's, fairly easy to implement, say it. And now your players have to work around it the entire time.
Yeah.
Boy, does that, just add in such a fun element.
Yeah, it sure does.
I'm gonna say consider everything that can be drained. And before we started this, Logan and I were just talking about it, but Dungeons and Dragons is meant to have 3 encounters a day. Any encounters, but 3 encounters a day, which can be kind of difficult in the grand scheme of things. I think we all fall to the trap of 1 a day. But and when you're building, you're kind of prepping stuff and kind of laying those guidelines for your sessions out. Try to find a way to throw some different socials to explorations to combats. It doesn't have to be 3 combats. That gets a little heavy. But finding different ways to do 3 different things, to use those resources up, because you've got, from spells to hit dice to short rest. Make those players use that stuff up.
Yeah, 100% Dungeons and Dragons for the players is a resource management game.
Yes.
Whether those resources are action surges, arrows, spell slots, healing potions, anything in between, hit dice, make them important, because you're supposed to only allow for 1 short rest per day. If you get done with a combat encounter and immediately the warlock's like, hey, I'm going to take a short rest. Sweet. All right, that's your 1 for the day. Because then they recharge all their spell slots as if it was all brand new. And then you go through the second encounter and they go, yep, I'm going to take a short rest. I'm going to pause you there, man. You already took 1 nap. Nap time's over, bud.
And that's where also, I feel like a lot of players want to push the boundaries of short rest. Don't let them.
Yeah.
Don't let
1
them.
hour.
Yeah. It takes an hour.
Yeah. Of inaction.
Yeah, because if you choose to take that short rest, and this is another kind of, this is also causes an encounter to a certain extent. If they're going somewhere and doing, breaking into something, and they go, well, we got really hurt real bad, before we go to this next room, they know we're here, we're going to take a short rest. Well, whether those people in that other room decide to take them on or just bug out and take whatever, they needed.
Yeah.
Well, you took that short rest. They're gone.
Yeah, you gave them a full hour's heads up of you guys coming.
There is reactions to the world. You know? So just short rests have repercussions.
Yeah.
Good and bad. The players heal, but the rest of the world keeps moving.
Yeah.
It's important to know your party's weaknesses and strengths. And it's even more important to decide to let them shine in both. Let that player that's strong shine. Let that player that's smart shine. But at the same time, let that player that's strong show that lack of intelligence. It's everything. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and those were the moments that kind of define the character and push that tension in the game.
Really use the different kind of encounters out there, the social, the combat, the chases, to use up all of the player resources, but more importantly, let certain players shine at different moments.
Yes.
That's the big thing.
Turn the spotlight on.
Yeah, I was just about to say, make sure each character has their spotlight so they all feel unique, but at the end of the day, they all feel necessary to the party.
That's what makes you feel good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, you might not be perfect. You might mess up, and that's totally fine. Encounters are fine. Just, if there's anything we leave you with, make them memorable. Do your best to really make them that cinematic push that you like.
Mm-hmm.
Make them fun.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, everyone's going to love it.
Yeah. And just keep improving.
Yeah.
Learn from one encounter what worked. Learn about CR. See how it fits within your party. Because maybe you run one campaign and you're able to use those CRs because your characters are more optimized. And then you run the next campaign and the characters are not optimized, and you go, wow, CR is way too difficult for them. So now you have to scale it back. Take it in stride. Keep plugging away.
Well, let's see. Hey, in the comments, give us your favorite puzzle. I feel like that's always something that's always fun. What's your favorite puzzle? Put in the comments. Everybody could always use some extra extra information or
Yeah.
creativity to put in their games.
Or even just let us know what your favorite encounter that you have been a
In
part
general.
of is.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So we'll see you in the comments, but otherwise, we'll see you next Saturday.
thanks for tuning in.
See you.